Mabuhay, Kamustika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Let's talk today about getting to know other Fil-Am families and why that's important. When I got back from the Philippines in 2015, after marrying the Filipina of my dreams, I was on a mission to find Filipina friends for my wife for when she immigrated here, which was the following year. I was happy that I was able to identify a Filipina who was a bit older than my wife, who could be a good influence on her. And since she was married, now my wife and I had our first Fil-Am couple to spend time with. Please subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea for information to help the foreigner decide if he should pursue a Filipina to marry, and for what has worked for us to have a good relationship. Go ahead and leave comments as well as get notifications for upcoming videos, and check out the podcasts on lvbts.com. Now, I have to admit, while I was interested in Filipina friends for my wife, I had not given any thought at all to actually finding a Fil-Am couple for us to spend time with. Didn't really know where to start because I was consumed with what was best for my wife, but didn't realize that it would be good if we had another couple to spend some time with that could relate to us. I don't know why it never dawned on me that maybe it would be helpful for me to know someone else here who is married to a Filipina that can relate to our own experience. But, it's just one thing at a time. I started with my pastor by asking him if he knew another man who was married to a Filipina. This is because pastors tend to know a lot of people. He gave me one man's name, which was great, and an email, and I quickly sent him a message about our situation and wanting to find a first Filipina friend for my wife. And if I remember correctly, we met the two of them and their 3 children at a local Asian restaurant, and after we were done visiting, they invited us over to their place to watch a movie. I just can't remember if that was the same night or another night. But right away, they wanted to reconnect. So, they were very gracious to us. And it was great to be with another couple together without wondering if they thought that, us being married was strange. This couple met here in the United States, and I don't think have a big age gap. And we have been to their place, half dozen times, and have returned the favor 4 or 5 times over at our place. The second couple we met, who also had multiple children, is an interesting story. It was likely back in the mid-90s when someone I knew from church that was in his 40s made waves by wanting to marry a woman in the Philippines. The first time I even remember hearing this. This was before the internet, as far as I remember, and they communicated by mail, regular mail. So it was slow. Probably took a month to get there. I think the method was that he chose her out of a list of women in, I suppose, catalog, for lack of a better word, who surely, had some kind of profile, so he knew what he was, who he was talking to. And then they just communicated with handwritten letters after that. I remember he told me the Filipinas made great wives. That's what he had been told. And he had personally given up on finding someone in America. You would think the way I feel about marrying a Filipina today, this would have sparked interest on my part. But it didn't. I must not have been keen on finding a wife that way because I never had the urge to try it myself, other than knowing how I eventually found my amazing Isa. At that time, I still assumed I could or would find someone locally that I could spend time with right away, in person. I know he got married, but I was going to another church after that time, and it wasn't for another 20 years that I met him again with his wife. Now, after I got married, I found a Facebook account of his family. I remembered his name and left a message there. And it wasn't noticed for a long time. As it turns out, he wasn't in the habit of even using Facebook, so his wife probably put it together. But eventually he got the message, and we met, he and his family. And we've been to their house, they have been to ours, and we have eaten out together. His wife's a little older than the first Filipina that I mentioned. So again, someone who can help my wife with a more seasoned perspective, which I liked. One day it was starting to snow hard, and my wife and this man's wife went to Costco to shop, and I was unable to reach them. I didn't know where they were either, so I was on a mission to find out if she was okay. My wife wasn't answering her phone. Her friend's husband, he didn't know uh, that they were at Costco. We found out by checking one of their children's GPSs that somehow showed where her mother was. Good idea. I couldn't figure out why neither one of them would answer their phones, so, I was worried about something had gone wrong. I did drive to Costco in the snow, which was not close to our house, by the way, and there I saw my wife's car, walked inside the store, and I saw the two of them with a full shopping cart laughing, having a good time. If I remember right, my wife's phone was dead, and I don't recall why the other Filipina didn't answer her phone, but they were safe and sound. As a husband to a Filipina, you will feel good about knowing other families. Two other Filipinas started working where my wife and I used to work. One worked in a different department. It was the company nurse who came up to me one day and told me she had given this new Filipina my wife's contact information so they could meet each other, and they did. We have met the two couples for karaoke and just to visit several times. These two couples have a large age gap, like my wife and I. I think all of these men married to Filipinas are glad they did. That's the big thing. Perhaps there are more in the future. Now that I think about it, there is. A younger man, see, that happens too. He was about 38, married a Filipina after finding out how my wife and I met each other. I think he was several years younger back then. He worked at that time with my wife, and she told him we met on the international dating site Christian Filipina. He promptly joined and connected with a woman, and they both hid their profiles from anyone else. Now they're married. She's been in the States for several years. Also, an older gentleman that I know married a younger Filipina after his wife passed away, and she is also immigrated. Small world. In addition to them, the first Fil-Am couple I mentioned brought over a newly immigrated Filipina to our house for dinner over the holidays. Her husband manages a very popular restaurant, and I was unavailable to be there, but this woman was my age, and we ate dinner together, then the obligatory karaoke downstairs, and she loved it so much that she didn't want to go home. It was the first time she had done karaoke since she arrived, and that's very important, very big in the Philippines. I felt good that we were able to give her a smoother transition to the United States. It's crazy, but I didn't consider my wife and I doing things with other Fil-Am couples. I was consumed with her finding friends, but now we can get together as couples, and that's even better. Wherever you reside, keep an eye out for other families to get to know you and your love beyond the sea.